Hi everybody, welcome to Mr. Natural's music school here in San Francisco, California. Welcome to the Haight-Ashbury district. Today we're going to continue on where we left off on intervals. Sorry for the last week. We had, of course, Easter, and there were a lot of performances around here running around doing, so we just skipped. Another thing is YouTube has informed us that since we do not have more than 1,000 subscribers, they will not support live streaming on the website anymore. Since we only have about 230 to 240 subscribers, whatever, they won't allow us to live stream. And we found that live streaming takes up a heck of a lot of resources. So what we've done is we're going to now, once a week, at our leisure, we'll record something in, we'll do our usual 15-minute to half-hour lesson, and then we'll upload it to YouTube before Saturday evening. This is all going into camera, and then from there we're going to upload it to YouTube, and you can come by and watch it whenever, because you guys who are subscribed, you get a little subscription notice saying that we've just done something new. For the rest of you, please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell button to get notification of when we send up a new video. We're working on learning to read music by enumeration, or by what's called interval or number. And what we've done up to this point is we showed you that we did flashcards to show you to train your eye to see odd intervals, 3s, 5s, and 7s. And then we trained your eye to see 2s, 4s, and 6s quite easily anywhere on the staff. Then the last lesson, what we did is we focused in on showing you what would happen if, instead of those intervals floating around, if there was one reference line. And what we did is we used the C clef. We used the C reference line, one line below the staff. We used the bottom line, which would be E, and we used the G line there as well. Now, if those were other types of clefs, they were bass clefs, tenor clefs, treble clefs, or whatever, those names would be different. But the intervals would be the same. We were looking at 3 different lines, and we were looking at 2 different spaces, D and F as well. And what we're doing is seeing that if we have a fixed reference point, from that reference point, you can still see if there's a 3rd above that, or a 5th above that, or a 7th above that, or you could see if there's a 2nd, a 4th, or a 6th. Now, what happens is, if the number 1 winds up on a line, then all the lines above it will be odd, and the spaces will be even for the first octave. Then when we get to the octave, what happens is, if the number 1 is on a line, say it's middle C, when you go up to the next C, the C above middle C, that one's on a space. And then what happens is all the spaces would then be odd numbers until you go up to the following C. Then when you get to C6, it goes back to a line. So in one octave, it will change from spaces to lines, or from lines to spaces. And then when you go up to the next octave, it goes back. So after 2 octaves, the whole thing resets. You also have to learn to enumerate going backwards. And we have this thing here, which we're calling the circle of thirds. In the circle of thirds, you have this pattern: 1, 3, 5, 7, 2, 4, and 6. If the number 1 happens to be on a line, then all these odd numbers here are going to be on lines, and these even numbers you'll see here between 1 and 3 is 2. Between 3 and 5 is 4. Between 5 and 7 is 6. So if these are lines, then 2, 4, and 6 here for the first octave will be on spaces. If we continue the pattern for the line on 7, the next line above that's going to be 2, because 1 moves to a space. So 1, 3, and 5 now are going to be spaces, and 2, 4, and 6 will continue on the lines. So line, 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 all the way up. The thing about this pattern is you have here all the spellings of all of the chords. For instance, if we pick what we call trinary chords, or 3-note chords, this would go 1, 3, 5, and that would be your 1 chord. A 2 chord would be spelled 2, 4, 6, right? A 3 chord would be 3, 5, 7. A 4 chord would be 4, 6, 1. A 5 chord would be 5, 7, 2. A 6 chord would be 6, 1, 3. A 7 chord would be 7, 2, 4. So that would be the spelling for trinary chords, or 3-note chords. If you're playing jazz, you always have a seventh in there, or a 4-note chord. 4-note or bigger. 4-note, 5-note, 6-note chords or bigger. And all you do is continue the process around. Because it's stacked thirds, the chord will just continue to go on. So if I'm doing 4-note chords, 1, 3, 5, and major 7th would be the 1 major 7 chord, which you'd find in jazz. The 2, 4, 6, 1 would be your D. Say this is a C major 7, that would be D minor with the 7th. 2, 4, 6 would be your minor chord, and then adding the 1 would be the 7th to that. If we're doing a 3 chord, 3, 5, 7, we add the 2, which is the 7th of that, and now we have a 3 minor 7th chord. If we're doing 4, 6, 1, 3, 4, 6, 1, 3, again, 4, 6, 1 would be like F chord, or a 4 chord, a major chord, and then adding this would be a major 7th. So the 1, 3, 5, 7 is a major 7, 4, 6, 1, 3 is a major 7, and 5, 7, 2, 4 would be a major, would be a dominant 7th, or a flat, that would be a flat 7. So what's happening here is this is describing the thirds that would stack up. Now, if you want to play a 13th chord, that would be 1, 3, 5, 7, 2, 4, 6. If I want to play a 5 13th chord, it would be 5, 7, 2, 4, 6, 1, 3. Just that simple. And so this is telling us the circle of thirds, or the building up of chords. But more importantly, it's demonstrating every other note in the system. So let's say that here, this line, the second line, is our number 1, as marked by the X. I don't have a regular clef here. This is a bass. This is a drum clef. So this is where number 1 is. You'll see that line is 1, that line is 3, that line is 5, and that line is 7. So I could generalize, and I could say the lines from 1 up are all odd numbers. 1, 3, 5, 7, 5, 3, 1. Easy peasy, right? All the spaces from 1 up would be evens. So right there, that would be a 2. There would be a 4. There would be a 6. And then right there, that space would be our new 1. And now what happened is 1 would move from the line to the space, and every space now going up would be odd until we get to the ledger line up here, where 1 comes back to a line again. This is rotating this thing this way, obviously. If I were to start down here, I'd have 1, 3, 5, 7, and then that line would be 2. And the ledger line above that would be 4. So this pattern would still be the lines continuing. If I'm way down here, where C would normally be, then this would be 1, 3, 5, that would be a 7, 2, 4, and then 1 ledger line, a 6, and then the 2 ledger lines would be back to 1 again, back on a line. So from a line to a space to a line, okay? That's the pattern that keeps occurring over and over and over again, right? Now, we need to practice this, rotating it backwards, for a number of reasons. One, we want to be able to spell the chords from the top down. For instance, if I want to change from a 1 chord, 1, 3, 5, to a 2 chord, 2, 4, 6, I can do it this way. 1, 3, 5, go to 6, 4, 2. I can play the arpeggio coming down and be playing the 2 chord. 1 chord, 1, 3, 5, 2 chord, 6, 4, 2. All right? 3, 5, 7, 1, 6, 4. So 3, 5, 7, 1, 6, 4. So I need to learn to rotate the dial this way so I can spell chords backwards. A 1 chord would be 5, 3, 1. Right? A 5 chord would be 2, 7, 5, etc. Also, your lines going down are going to change from odd numbers to even numbers. So here we have 1. The next line down is going to be 6. So we're rotating down. 6. If I go down to the ledger line below here, that's going to be 4. And if I have 2 ledger lines below here, it's going to go down to 2. So it's going 1, 6, 4, 2. And then the space down here would be where our new 1 is. Okay? So learning to rotate this backwards is probably the most difficult thing to do, and that's the thing you have to remember. The pattern 1, 6, 4, 2, 7, 5, 3, 1, 6, 4, 2, 7, 5, 3, 1, 6, 4, 2. And the faster you can say that, 1, 6, 4, 3, 1642753 16421, and also starting anywhere. Like if I start on 7, 7531642, or if I start on 6, 6427531, or if I start on 5, 5316472, etc. And if you learn to rotate this backwards and you learn to rotate it forwards, you can play your chords going up, you can play your chords coming down. You can label all your lines going up and all your lines coming down. If the number 1, however, would be on a space, as we did last week where we had it here, where the D would normally be in the G clef, then your spaces would be 1, 3, 5, 7, 2, 4, etc. And rotating them backwards, right, I would have to put a ledger line and go down to get 6, etc. If right here, let's say that's where 1 is, then 1, 6, 4, 2, and the ledger line down here would be 1 again. So that would be the key of C in the G clef. So learning this pattern backwards is really important. And remembering that if 1 is on a line, all the lines above it are going to be odd and the spaces will be even. And that's as much as you really need to know. You'll be able to guess the numbers pretty quickly. It's pretty easy when we're doing melodies to move, say I'm here and I'm moving up a second, and I'm moving up a second. Here I'm moving up a third, and down a third, and down a second, down a second, down a second, down a second. And that's one way you can read. If I know what this note is, if I know that in the diatonic scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it's starting on 3, and I get to 3 and I say, okay, up a second to 4, up a second to 5, up 2 notes to 7, down 2 notes to 5. I could play and I would lock in. But the problem with that is, if I get one of those intervals wrong, if I'm reading a 2 when it should be a 3, for instance, and I jump to the 3, all of a sudden my melody is going to go wanky-wonky, and I'm going to be out of the key, and I won't know how to get back in. So one of the main things is learning to read the interval always to the reference thing. So here, you can see from here to that reference, you can see that's the third. So if that were a note and that were a note, those would be a third apart. And we learn to do those in our right brain like this, right? If we look from here, this is on a space. It's going to be an even number in this case. And from here to there, you can see that that's a fourth. Going from a line to a space, even number, that's the second, there's the fourth. On this next one, from this line up, you can see that's a fifth. We're skipping over that line to there, so there's the 5. So that's a 5. We look here, line up to a line, that's a 7th. Line to the line, a 5th. Line to the space, an even number 4, an odd number 3, an even number 2, and a 1. So I can label this pretty simply just by doing this. Now, one of the things I like to do when I'm writing music is if the music is very, very crowded, I'll put the number right here, right over the top of the note. If it's not crowded, I always try to put the number right here in front of the note. So my eye will see the number associated with the line that the note's on. Now we have some of the kids write it behind, and the problem is I can't tell if that number is associated with that or that one. And we've been trying to break them of the habit. And some of them we can break them of the habit, but some of the kids, turns out, are dyslexic. So seeing it on that side, to them, is an advantage, to the rest of us not. So I try to encourage those kids who have dyslexia to write it right over the top of the note. That way, anyone can read it. So let's take a look at this and see. This is not a standard melody. This is something I threw off the top of my head. So from here to here would be 3, so this note is 3. From there to there, that's 4. From there to there, there's 5. From here to there, that's 7. There's a 5. From here to there is 4. There is a 3. There is a 2. And right there is a 1. So if I had a flute or I had some kind of instrument here that I can play, and I have the piano, I would simply start on 3, 4, 5, 7, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that would be that little melody. And you see in every case we're referring it to this line right here. Okay, now let's take that a little bit further. Now, at this point, I've been thinking about this a lot. I can split off into two different directions here now in the lesson. Direction number one. At this point, your job would be to go out and get everything in the key of C that you could get yourself 15 or 20 songs, all in the key of C. Find out that C is the ledger line below here, 1, 3, 5, 7, 2, 4. Number the lines, and then just take off trying to read or decode the music. And what I would suggest is that you stay in one key for about 10 or 15 songs. Because what happens is the first 2, 3 songs, your eyeball struggles. But then what happens is your eyeball starts to settle in, and when your eyeball starts to settle in, by the time you get to the 10th song, you're finding that you're doing it and your left brain is no longer trying to figure it out. Your eye, that training we had to see those intervals with the right brain and just guess them like this, boom, 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 that kicks in. And what happens is you find that you can just start reading. And another thing is your ear begins to hear the numbers as well as your eye seeing it. And what your eye is seeing and what your ear are hearing begin to collate with each other since they're speaking the same language now. And even if, like you're playing the piano, your hand will reach a certain distance. Or if you're on the flute, for instance, going up a second is lifting 1 finger. Going up a fifth is lifting 4 fingers. It'll always be 1 finger less than whatever the interval name. If I want to go up a 7, I'm going to pick up 6 fingers. Or I'm going to put 6 fingers down. If I'm going a third, I'm going to pick up 2 fingers or put 2 fingers down. And so what happens is there's a direct mechanical correlation in the distance that your hand is reaching on any particular instrument. On the guitar, of course, if I'm going along one string, that would be true. But if I'm going down across the strings, this way or vertically, then it's a little bit different. And then we have a fingering pattern. And again, if I practice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I get to the point where this fingering pattern becomes automatic and I don't have to think about it in my left brain. So I know this starts on 3, so I go 1, 2, 3. So now I got my finger on that 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, 7, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So the distance that my hand is moving, the distance that my eye is seeing, and the distance that my ear is hearing are all the same language. And after a while, your ear starts to take over and dominates. Your ear starts to guess how far it has to go, and it kind of knows how many fingers it needs to go to on a subconscious level automatically to get to that next number. And the process stops being conscious, stuck in your left brain all the time, and starts becoming right-brained, and you start to feel or guess the distance, and your fingers just automatically go there. Or you just go, oh, I'm going up 3 notes, I'm going up a third, I'm coming down a fourth. Oh, I've just lost my place. Let's see. To the reference point, I should be on 4 now. Okay, there's a 4, there's a 3, on and on. And every time you'll find yourself starting to play melodically, moving up and down these distances. But if you get lost here somewhere, you're going to reference it back to your reference point, which is your key, in order to get back into the scale. Okay? So we'll start showing you more and more. I'll pull out an instrument, show you a fingering pattern to give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we'll try playing some melodies. So the first thing I do with my students at this point is I'll pull out a bunch of things that I have written in the key of G, and I'll make them read about 10 or 20 songs in the key of G. And in about 2 weeks, they can read the key of G like this. Then what I'll do is I'll start adding sharps and flats into that song so they can figure out where their 3 flat is, or where their 4 sharp is, or where their 7 flat is at. And then when they learn that little fingering pattern, it only comes up a few times in a song in most cases. Like if you're adding a 4 to a song, it might only come up 2 or 3 times. Or if you're putting in a sharp, a flat 7, for instance, or you're playing the blues, you have a flat 7, flat 3. Those things will come up melodically just once in a while, and they will be notated as we go. The key signature here will not mean anything once we know where 1 is and we've got our interval patterns, okay? What's going to happen is as the song is playing, if I wanted this to be a sharp 4, I would have to put a sharp in front of it. And then over here, if I did it again, it would still be a sharp. And I wouldn't have to put a sharp in front of it. But if I played 4 here with a sharp and I put another 4 here, I would have to put a neutral in front of it if I want it to be a normal 4. And what happens is when we cross this measure boundary, all bets are off and it goes back to its normal default. So what's going to happen is the intervals that move outside of the diatonic scale are going to be notated as they go, and they'll be canceled as they go. So they'll be adding them in and taking them out, and adding them in and taking them out. But the one thing that will remain constant is that diatonic scale will be there all the time, and those sharp and flat notes will be in between notes. Now there's only 5 of them, and in most cases, for instance, when they add sharps into a song, they'll use sharps throughout the song. Or if they have flats, there'll be flats throughout the song. Rarely do you get them combined. But then as the songs become more chromatic, as they become trickier, as in some cases they modulate into another key and then modulate back into the bass key again, what's going to happen is both sharps and flats will come up. Also, sometimes direction. If we're moving up, we might go from 3 to 4 sharp to 5, but if I were to come back down, instead of going to a 4 sharp, I would go to a 5 flat, which would be the same as 4 sharp. So what happens is direction. Going up, they'll probably use sharps, and coming down, they'll probably use flats. So you will see instances where sharps and flats are mixed up within the song, and there might be 3 sharps in the song and 1 flat, and those will keep reoccurring throughout the song. But every time they use them, they'll notate them in front of that note, so they'll be in front of that number or on that number, and then they disappear at the measure boundary, or they use neutral signs to get rid of them within the measure, and everything goes back to its default. Okay. The other thing I do at this point is, instead of getting out 10 or 15 songs and getting people to read in one key for a while, and then what we do is, let's say for 2 months, I'll just bring out songs that are in the key of G until they get to the point where whatever scale they're playing, doesn't matter if they're playing the C scale, they're playing the G sharp scale, I don't care. If you're playing the G sharp major scale, you can still read things in the key of C. You read about 30 or 40 of those for 2 months, and you get to the point where, boom, you can just play anything in that key. Then what I would do is dedicate the next 2 months to a different key. So we might start reading things in the key of E flat. And then for 2 months, we'll read things in the key of E flat, but still play them in our G sharp. If we're playing G sharp, we'll still play our G sharp scale, but we'll learn to read music that's all notated in E flat. And then a couple months later, we'll go to another key. We'll do something like A, and in the key of A, we'll read things that are in the key of A, but we'll still play everything in that one scale that you know well. So what happens is, as you go, you learn to read in different keys. Your eyeball gets used to this, seeing the intervals and jumping around. And as you read more and more and more music in one key, you get comfortable with it. At the end of a year, you can cover all 12 keys. And you can learn to read something in all 12 keys, even if you only play one scale on, you say you're playing the trumpet, and you're playing what you think is the C scale, which is actually the B flat scale in concert pitch. So you play your B flat scale until you get so comfortable with it, you can play anything in that. Then you start adding your F sharps and your G sharps and your E flats and stuff like that, and whatever. And what you're doing is now modifying the notes in B flat. We look at the sound, the concert pitch sound, not necessarily what they're teaching you to read, because it really doesn't matter what A, B, C, or E, F, G, or X, Y, Z it's called. What matters is where's one, and the distances of those intervals and the relationships between them, the mathematical relationships between them. That will keep everything constant. So if I learn to play one scale really well on my instrument, and I learn to read in different keys, what's going to happen is I'm automatically transposing from the key it's written into the key that I'm playing on my horn or my instrument. And then what happens is I develop chops, and my chops get more and more complicated, and my technique gets better and better until I can play things in that key that most people can't. Because what happens is they'll learn to play in C, and then they'll learn to D, and then they'll go to G, and then they'll go to F, and what happens is by the end of the year they will have tried to get them to read in 5 or 6 different keys, and play in 5 or 6 different keys, and they never get used to the fingering patterns, and they never get used to the hand positions, and what happens is they play equally bad in all 5 or 6 keys. But if you stay in one key, and you read in those different keys, but play in that one key, your chops get better and better and better and better and better until, like, if you're playing in C on the piano, you can read anything in any key and play it in the key of C, transposing it instantly as you go, and develop very high, competent level of technique. Once you reach a fairly high level of technique, then your job is simply each month or every 2 months say, I'm going to learn to play another key. And you learn a new fingering pattern on your instrument, and now you go back and play everything you've already played, everything in all 12 of those keys that you already know, you play them in with this new fingering pattern. And what happens is in usually about 2 or 3 weeks, you'll get that fingering pattern down, and you will develop technique and chops a lot faster in that new key than you could have if you just got in it and out of it and dropped in it and dropped out of it and dropped in it and dropped out of it the way it's taught right now. So once you become incredibly skilled in playing in one key, when you move to a new key and learn a new fingering pattern, that skill will start to come along with it, and you'll be able to develop a very high level of playing and technique in that key and still be able to read any piece of music in any key, playing it in that key, automatically transposing. The other thing is, here, I like to teach people to write. So if I know somebody wants to learn to write music, what I would do at this point is, instead of just throwing a whole bunch of stuff at them in one key, I would give them a lot of songs that are numbered. And we have several books around here. We have a Mr. Natural music book out on the market right now. You can go to lulu.com or go to Amazon, and besides my music theory book, which you should all be familiar with now, which is Music Theory Decoded, and this is the theoretical part of it to help you get through school, we also have this other little book that just has songs numbered. We call it Piano Tab. And it just has songs written out as number patterns. So if you learn a key, you know how to play a key on an instrument, you can go to that book and immediately start playing songs. And that book has about 40 songs in it, and they're arranged from just 3 notes wide to 4 notes wide to 5 notes wide till finally you have a whole octave. Then they start skipping around, and then they start doing huge leaps. And by the time you get to that end of that book is designed to get you to start playing instantly and start developing the chops and the techniques that you need to jump around and read randomly. So I would teach people to write. I would give them a number code pattern, and then we would drop them on the staff, all right, which is what I'm going to start doing. I want you people to learn to write music on a piece of paper. So we're going to be doing both. I'm going to just pull out some stuff that's in say right now, what would be the key of G. We're going to go off the second line here and just learn to see these intervals and be able to play them. And we're going to do that with 5, 6, 10 songs. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a bunch of numbers, and then I'm going to say, okay, I want these numbers to be in this key. And you'll have to pick a line or a space that you want to be your one reference point and start writing this stuff out. Which means if you go to the ear training I did on rhythm, where you can see the rhythms and learn to hear the rhythms, that's going to come in really handy when you see just a set of numbers, and then you have to figure out the rhythms for the numbers to be able to write it down. So we're going to do both here, and what we're going to do is switch each week back and forth, so you can get used to seeing enumerations or intervals and write them in any key you want. And then we're also going to learn to read in just one key a lot, and then I'll switch to another key and we'll learn to read in that key a lot, okay? So that's what we're going to be doing. So let's start with reading in one key. Now, from now on, instead of the intervals floating all over, they're always going to have a reference point. And what we're going to do is we are not going to use any clefs, so they have no names, all right? And if this were in the bass clef, for instance, this would be the key of B. If this were the viola clef, for instance, right, this would be the key of A. So the names would change depending on what kind of clef I use. We're not going to use any clefs. what I'm going to do is just a reference. We're going to do the old pirate trick. X marks the spot. X is the treasure map. All right? In this case, what we're doing is the second line here is where we're going to put our X, and that will be the number 1. So that note right there is the number 1. And so let's see if we can just go through here and enumerate this and see if we can figure out what the melody is, all right? You can see 1, 2, 3. You can see right there to there is a third. So this right here is 3. Then it stays on that, so again it's 3 again. And then it moves down and it goes from a line to a space. That is a 2. So this is the number 2. Then it comes down to 1, 1. Then it moves up to 2, 2. And then you'll see it's skipping from 2 to 4. Then it comes down to 3, 2, 1. Skips up a fifth, see, a 5. So this is 5, 5, 4. That's a third, 3, third, 3, 1. And the rest of the song goes 2, 4, 3, 2, 1. So again, if I grab the piano and I start 1, 2, 3, and I go 3, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, 4, 3, 2, 1. Skip up to 5, 5, 5, 4, 3, 3, 1, 2, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's a song called Go Tell Aunt Rhody. So we recognize this as Go Tell Aunt Rhody. Now, what I would do if I'm normally enumerating this is I would put the numbers in front here. Like I said, I just put them down there so you can see them. Now I'm going to start writing them in front of the notes in red. Let's look at this melody. There's 1. These notes start on 1. So this is 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, skips to 3, 2, 2, 1. 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, skips up to 3, 2, 2, 1. Da 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 da. We don't have to go any higher than 3 actually in this case. Da 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 da. 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 2, 1. What's the name of that song? If I go to Paris, you must parler français. That's
Claire de la Lune.
Claire de la Lune. The something moon, right? Lune means lunar, and it's a little French tune, right? I think this was, I read once, this is Marquis de Sade's favorite tune because it was 3 notes wide, and when he was in the crazy house in France, he used to sing this constantly over and over and over, and it actually drove his jailers crazy. I'd imagine so. But you can see here, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2. Now you'll also notice that I can look at this, and if I get that scale in my head, da 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 da, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 2, 1. I can sight read it. And I can go to the library, pull music off the shelf, open it up, go, oh, there's 1, da 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 da, starts on 5, da 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 da, 5, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I just start, and I can hear the music in me head. Okay, let's take a look at this one. This one starts on 1, 3, 5, 5, 2, 4, 2, 3, 4, can't see it, 1, 3, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, 5, 5, 2, 3, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 3, 5, 5, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, 5, 5, 2, 3, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1. And that is
Love somebody.
love somebody. Yes, I do. Love somebody. Might be you, okay? So there we've numbered that one. Now let's go down here and see where this one. This one, again, here's 1, and it's starting on the number 3. So, da da da, da da, goes as high as 5. So, da 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 da. So I'm going 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, 2, 3, up to 5, 5, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, 3, 2, 1. Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Mary had a little lamb, its fleece was white as snow. So what I'm going to be doing in the future is sometimes I'll put notes and I'll say, oh, this line or that line or this line or that line or a line below or 2 lines below is where the number 1 is. We'll figure out where our 1, 3, 5, 7s go and then just start reading the music. Other times I might do something like, I'll give you a pattern like 1, 1, 5, 5, 6, 6, 5, 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, 1. And then what I would want you to do is I would want you to be able to take that and say, okay, let's say that that line right there is the number 1, so now I'm going 1, 1, 5, 5, 6, 6, hold, 5, 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, 1, hold. Put some little sticks on them. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, 1, 1, 5, 5, 6, 6, 5. How I wonder what you are. 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, 1. 5, 5, 4, 4, 3, 3, 2. 5, 5, 4, 4, 3, 3, 2. 1, 1, 5, 5, 6, 6, 5. 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, 1. Got it? That's how simple it is. These are all in the key of, if this were the treble clef, these would all be in the key of G. So if you go to some fake book or you open up any little pamphlet that has little songs in it, something like that, and they have 1 sharp in the key signature, that sharp is the number 7, and it's usually put right there. So this would be the number 7, and then this would be 5, 3, and there's our 1. So it's going to be pointing at that line, and the sharp being 7 tells us this is the key of G. So what we can do is get as many songs as we can find that have a single sharp in the key signature, take that second line, call that 1, and see where it takes off. Now, a hint. Most songs will begin on a note that's in the chord, and the first chord is usually a 1 chord. So the songs are going to start on 1, 3, or 5. You'll notice that all of these songs started on a 1 or a 3. None of them started on 5, but 1, 3, or 5. But they all ended on 1. And the song ends on 1 because it's ending in the chord, and whatever that last chord is the name of the key signature. So if the last chord is an A chord, then A would be the number 1. If the last chord is an E flat chord, then that bottom line there in the G clef would be E flat, and that would be. So we did Twinkle Star here in what would be the key of E or the key of E flat if this were the treble clef, right? This would be a G. This would be G if this were the bass clef. So that would be G bass clef, that would be G treble clef, right? So easy peasy from that point on. Once you know where the reference point is, you can tell one by the last chord, and the last note will almost always end on one. Now, a lot of Disney tunes end on 3 or 5. They like to do, Jiminy Cricket likes to go da da, a little dramatic thing, and then go from the, he'll end on the 1, and then he'll do a little riff up to 5. So don't let that fool you, okay? The last chord, the root of that chord, will tell you where your number 1 is. 1 is going to be on a line, or it's going to be on a space, either of those. If 1's on a space, then all the spaces above are odd numbers. If 1's on a line, then all the lines above that are odd numbers, and the opposite would be true. If 1 is on a line, then anything that falls on a space above that is going to be an even number. If 1 is on, say, if 1 is here for F, the key of F, then this is 3, this is 5, that's 7, 2, 4, etc., etc. And now what's happening is your spaces are going to be even odd numbers, and your lines will then be even numbers. And in most cases, it's as simple as that. You know, oh, all the lines are odd numbers. So anytime I see something on a space, if I call it 1, 3, 5, or 7, I'm probably wrong. It's got to be a 2, 4, or 6. All right? So this is how you read music diatonically. And if sharps or flats are needed in the song, they will put them right in front of the notes that they want to modify, and as soon as it crosses the measure boundary, it defaults back to the normal scale. So if I had a 2 sharp here, over here, this would be a normal 2. If I had a 1 sharp right here, then I don't have to put the sharp on these. That would be 1 sharp, 1 sharp, 1 sharp. If I wanted the first 2 to be 1 sharp and that third one to be a normal 1, then I would put a sharp here. I wouldn't put a sharp there because it would stay sharp, but I'd have to put a neutral sign on that one to bring it back to the normal 1 before it crosses the measure boundary. If it crosses the measure boundary, all bets are off. Okay? So that's it for this week's lesson. And what we're going to do now, from now on, is I'm going to grab an instrument, play the major diatonic scale for you, show you a fingering pattern that, for instance, on the clarinet, they always start you on C. But if you go all the way to the bottom and go down to F and play from F up, you'll find that your fingers go one right after another in a straight line all the way on up and all the way back on down. So it's easier to learn to play in the key of F. E flat is easier to play on the alto, and if you play in the key of E flat, which they call their C scale, again, your fingers are just coming up and going right back down. If you start on, say, the tenor saxophone, if instead of starting with your pinky, if you start with your next one, you play what would be called the D scale on that, and that's actually playing the key of C. Since that instrument is 1 whole step lower than concert pitch, if I'm playing D on that B flat instrument and I figure out that fingering pattern that goes up, up, and then switches 2 fingers around, and then goes up from there, comes down, does that little switch and comes back down. That one little switch is the only little kink in that. Once I get that fingering pattern down, playing in the key of D on my B flat tenor sax, I'm actually playing concert C on the piano, and I can read piano music and play right along with them by playing that D scale on my instrument. So that's the idea. The idea is we're going to learn one scale really well on whatever instrument you had. By the way, the instruments don't have to be good instruments. It could be something like an ocarina or a fiddle flute or a brass penny whistle, or you could get a tin whistle, a tin whistle, or you can find yourself some weird things like pan pipes, for instance. Often all you have to do is find out where 1 is on the pan pipe, learn to play up and down the pan pipes. They're usually diatonic. Some pan pipes there are two rows, and the one row is diatonic and the other row gives you your sharps and flats. So it doesn't matter what key it's in, you learn to play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you're off and running. Okay? So let's call it a night. Thank you very, very much for being with us. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I hope you see where this is going. I'm going to teach you to read music by writing it. And we're also going to learn to read music in different keys. But I want you to find one diatonic scale on one instrument. I don't care if it's a zither or if it's an oud or any kind of instrument. You learn to play do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or play your C scale or whatever it's called, your major scale, and anything that we write in any key, we'll be able to play that. And as time goes on, I'll start introducing patterns that have sharps and flats in them, so that melodies will become more and more and more complex. You all have a good evening out there, and I hope this experiment we're doing here, we're actually recording on 3 totally different cameras simultaneously, because I want to look at the quality of all 3 of these. Since we can't go out in a live stream, what we're going to do is record to one of these cameras and then upload it to YouTube. And I'm looking at 3 different cameras that I have to see once and for all which one gives us the best picture image and which is the sharpest and in focus, and which one works for this format. So until then, you all be well. Keep rolling until your wheels fall off, folks. Night-night.